Good afternoon.
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 I have problem with my camera. I don't know why. I already start the session at my browser, but still the same. I will not on my camera. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Kelvin, are you there? Yes. No. Yes. No. Okay.
Sorry, I cannot type.
Oh. Okay. All right. It's okay. Okay, so for today, we will continue to discuss on chapter 6. Okay, but before we start, your midterm test will be conducted next week during lecture time. Okay, so I sorry. So for your like, you can do some revision on you try to do readings or do research on apps for visually impaired people. Okay, so that's the tips for you to get ready for the midterm test. Okay, I repeat, for midterm test, you read information on application for visually impaired people. Okay, got it?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this week we will continue on discussing for chapter 6. Okay, so I will, if according to our course plan, chapter 6 should be covered in week 7 and week 8. Okay, but because your midterm test will be conducted next week during lecture, so today I will finish up everything for this chapter 6. Okay, so chapter 6, it's about basically about computer. Okay, some basic information on computers, the type of input and output of a computer system, and we will also look at the interaction style of a system. Okay. Okay. So let's look at some of the example of input devices. So these input devices are the devices that we use on with computer for us to give an input, so that the computer can read anything that we input to these devices. Okay, so we have the keyboard, we have stylus, we have microphone for audio input, we have mouse, trackball, touchpad, touch screen, camera, scanner, and so on. So everything that we use to input information to the computer, that is what we call an input devices. Okay, so let's look at keyboard. So keyboard, it's a common input device for entering text. So there are several type of keyboard. Okay, so this QWERTY keyboard is the standard layout invented by Scholz in 1868. So QWERTY is referring to the order of the alphabet on the keyboard. So you can see here QWERTY. Okay, so that's why it's called the QWERTY keyboard. Okay, so this is the standard layout that you can see on any keyboard. So we have this type of key on the keyboard. We have general key and also scissor key. So we have, when we every time we press on a keyboard, the key press will causes a connection and causing a character code to be sent to the computer to process. Okay, so for computer, it can allow rapid entry of text by experienced users. Okay, so the QWERTY layout is not optimal for typing because the layout is due to referring to the typewriter's layout. Okay, and this QWERTY layout keyboard, it's biased towards left-handed person. Okay, left-handed people. So we have other type of keyboard layouts. We have Dvorak and also Alphabetic. Okay, so Dvorak is where the common letters are placed under dominant fingers. Okay, so it look like this. It's not QWERTY. And common combination of letters alternate between hands, and then it's this one is biased towards right hand. So this type of keyboard layout believed to be to have a 10% to 15% improvement in speed and reduction in fatigue when user is using this type of keyboard when they use when they want to use when they use this when they work with a computer. Another type of keyboard we have the alphabetic. Okay, so with alphabetic the keys are arranged in alphabetic order. Yeah, so if you see here we have A, B, C, D, E, F. So this usually you can see this on ATM machine, or you can see this on previous model of phone. Okay, Nokia phone previously, the previous phone. I'm not sure if you have seen it. Okay, so this one is not faster for trained typists and not faster for beginners either. So mainly used in handheld devices. But this one I don't think we have this for handheld devices anymore. And then we have a stylus pen. Okay, so this help us to help the user to input text into the computer using a special pen called stylus. Okay, so there are many types of stylus pen nowadays. No training is needed, and you just need to know how to write, and it has a compact size. The disadvantages is relatively low recognition accuracy, but I believe now the recognition accuracy has improved a lot. So there are many types of stylus pen out there. Some might still have these disadvantages, especially those low quality will have this low recognition accuracy. So this one is an example of HP stylus pen. Okay, and then mouse. Okay, so mouse is our pointing device. This is the very common handheld pointing device which we use when we are using our computer. So it can be mechanical, it can be optical, it can be laser, and it can be wireless. So the advantages of this mouse, it allow diagonal and continuous movement. Okay, so it's easy to use as well, right? So the disadvantage is that when you want to use mouse, you need to remove your hand from the keyboard. Okay, so some people they are more comfortable to control their computer or their interface on the screen using mouse. Some people um, prefer to use keyboard. Okay, so depending on your preferences. So, so we have this. These are example of the earlier mouse that was invented. We have this and the foot mouse. Okay, so next we have the trackball. Trackball is something like this. Previously we have this like if you have like the normal mouse, right? When you this one is like during my time, if you have a trackball, it's like level up, right? But this one is I don't think we have this anymore. Maybe some will use this for gaming. Okay, so it's similar. It allow similar with a mouse. It allow diagonal and continuous movement, but compare with mouse, it is the less physical space is required. So usually you will handheld this kind of this trackball. The disadvantage also the same with a mouse. You need to remove your hand from keyboard if you want to use this. So these are example of a trackball. But I'm not this one. I don't think we have it anymore. Maybe for gaming, yes. And then touch screen. Okay, so touch screen it detect the presence of finger on the screen. So the advantages will be it's direct, means you can just directly select any item on screen using your finger rather than using a mouse. It can be fast, can be good for menu selection as well. But the disadvantages of this touch screen is that fingerprint can be left on the screen, and also tiring the arm as well. So some touch screen is not like it's not sensitive. Some sensitive, some not sensitive, some very sensitive. So depending on the type of your device, touchscreen the touchscreen capability can be different. Okay, so you will only use touchscreen when opportunity for training is low and your desk space is small, which you will not have space for keyboard. Okay, so it can be info kiosk or a cashier system in a shop. So there are few types of touch screens. We have the first one, capacitive touch, which is more responsive like this. Okay, so you have the sensor traces here, and you have the lens and casing. So this is the LCD screen. So anyway you touch, it's more responsive. And then you have the resistive touch, which is less sensitive. It uses usually clear polyester film, and there is a gap and spacer. And then the third one, we have a perimeter base. Okay, perimeter base. So this it emit light or sound waves with a sensor to detect movement, and it convert existing display to touch. So this one is where this display it uses infrared. So when you touch on the screen, okay, so the LED will create grid of infrared lights. This one, and when you touch on the screen, it will the infrared will disappear, and that is where the computer is sensing that there is interaction here on this part where it is touch. Okay, so we have three types. So that's for input devices. Okay, that's for input devices, and then we have output devices. Okay, output is where we get to see the computer giving you feedback. Okay, so it can be computer screens. We have CRT. I think this one obsolete already. And then we have plasma screen, LCD screen, touch screen, and OLED or LED. And for audio, we have speakers for speech output and audio input, and we also have braille display and printers and so on. So the first one is Cathode Ray Tube. So this was the first type of monitor that was used for computer. So the advantages are high resolution, more accurate color balance, fast response time, and better viewing angle. But it's bulky and heavy, and there is radiation emission, and it's impractical to produce larger screen because it cannot support more than 40 inches display. Okay. Have you all seen this? Have you all have the chance to use this CRT monitor?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so kamu pun tak sudah pula. Okay, so but of course nowadays you like it's very rare already, like you will not see this anymore unless it's from long time ago. Okay, like they still keep it to be used by their user. Okay, so we have next one is LCD. So LCD is the most used one now. So I think at the campus also using this LCD, the computer labs. So advantages will be it's smaller and lighter. There's no radiation emission like the CRT, and it using a lower power consumption, and it's flicker free. But the disadvantages will be the color reproduction is less accurate and lower response time. So these are types of screens. And then we have speech output or audio output. Okay, so we have this is a speaker. So you have a digitized speech which recorded human speech directly in digital format. Like example of the apa tu? So nama tu Who says this? Re- what's the name already? Operator. Yeah, operator. Okay, operator. So it's actually digitized speech, and then we have synthesized speech, which generated using computers via speech processing techniques. So the advantages will be useful for when users are eyes are busy or user cannot access the screen. So let's say example like you are in a monorail or you are in the bus, a smart bus, which uses screen to show where is your location. So like this one, like in LRT or MRT or monorail. So uh, you can use the speaker to mention where is the next station because you maybe your eyes cannot reach the screen. Okay, so you use the speaker to tell the users where is the station, where is the next station. Okay, and this one also is useful when users have visual impairments. Okay, so remember for your midterm test, I give you the tips. This it's about visual impairment, so you need to know everything about visual impairments when they're using apps. Okay, so this one is useful because they cannot see, right? So they can only hear. Okay, but some might also have problem with their. Usually, those with visual impairments can also have a problem with their ear. Okay, so those are things that you need to take into consideration when you want to design your app. So this one is example of speech that is telling the user where the doors are closing, where is the location 10th floor, 12th floor. Maybe this one is in the lift and etc. So the disadvantages of this speech output is that it is slow pace compared to visual output. Okay, so it is the challenges would be when you are in a loud spaces, right? It can be problematic and you cannot hear what is the voice output given to you. Okay, and then we have the audio sound. So our audio here, especially is referring to sound. So this is used as feedback and entertainment. Examples like confirm actions, to offer warning, or to provide mood context in games. So that's for audio output. And then we have this braille display, okay, so pins that provide output for the blind. So we have these are example of braille display which allow visually impaired user to provide input or to read output from the computer. Okay. So have you ever think of how visually impaired people read WhatsApp? How they communicate with others through their phone. Okay, those things you try to find out or you try to do some reading on that part. Okay, and then haptic feedback. Haptic feedback. This one is usually used for 3D modeling. Okay, so maybe you like you are creating a 3D model of this skull here using this device. The name is Geometric Touch X haptic device. So you use your hand to control it and you get the output from your screen. So that's all for the input and output. Okay, so we have the next part of this lecture is interaction types. So before we proceed to this one, we take five. Can we do that?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can you continue?
Okay.
Okay. So we continue on the next part of this chapter. We look at interaction types. Okay, so here there are 4 types of interaction according to this researcher. So we have instructing, which user issue commands and selecting options on the screen on the computer, and then conversing, which the user interact with the system like having a conversation, and then manipulating, which user interacting with objects in a virtual or physical space, and the fourth one is exploring, where user moving through a virtual environment. So we will look at this one by one. So the first one is instructing. Okay, so this is where user will instruct a system, like giving an instruction to the system or to the computer and tell it what to do. For example, like tell the time, print a file, save a file on the computer, on the computer system. So the benefits of this instructing is that it support quick and efficient interaction, whereby the user give instruction and then the system read it and give feedback. So these are instructing interaction types. It's good for repetitive kinds of action which perform on multiple objects. Okay, so example of this are using, like, we have GUI here. We give instruction to the to this Microsoft Office to save our file, example. Yeah, and then we have here the command line. So you give instruction to the system and then the system will give you the output. Okay, so this one is change the directory to home. You press enter, the computer will put you in the directory of home in the computer. Okay, so that's for instructing. You give instruction to the computer to process and give you and process it for you and give you the next action. So next we have the conversing. So this is the underlying model of having a conversation with another human. So for example, is like a virtual recognition system or natural language dialogues. So example like virtual agents or chatbots. And for this type of interaction between user and system or computer, for conversing, it allows user, especially novice, okay, or you all like to say it like noob and technophobes, to interact with the system in a way that is familiar. So it provide this conversing, like they just need to like they don't have to do anything on the system, but they just use the way that is familiar, like using conversation. Okay, so this will make them feel more comfortable at ease and less scared of using the system. But the problem with these interaction types is that misunderstanding can happen when the system does not know how to parse what the user says. Okay, so let's take another example, like if you are blind. Okay, you are blind and then you only can communicate by using your voice. Okay, so you talk to the system, right? But they cannot understand what you say, so that can be a problem for this type of interaction, by user interaction, conversation between user and the system. Okay, so example are like this. So iOS we have Apple Siri, and then also for Android we have Google Now, and for Windows we have Windows Cortana. So these are what we also call personal assistants. Okay, so user will use their voice to talk to the personal assistant, and then you will get the system will go on with what you want with what you want the system to do. Okay, so that's for conversation or conversing. Next we have the manipulating. Okay, So manipulating interaction types is where you involve dragging, dragging, selecting, this one, opening, closing, and zooming action. So C is zooming, A is selecting, B is drag. Okay. So we have this term of direct manipulation by Snyderman. So this came from his fascination with computer games at the time. So whereby you press button instead of using text command. Okay, so as a gamer, usually you would prefer to have a good keyboard for you to use because like gamers are more enjoyable to use than typing. Okay, so why are these direct manipulation interface so enjoyable? So users will experience less anxiety and they can gain confidence and mastery and feel in control because you use um, your hand to control the game, or you use your fingers, or you use your fingers to control your game, and you gain more confidence to, which makes you feel in control of the game that you are playing currently. Okay, but there is the disadvantage of for this direct manipulation interface, which not all action can be done directly here by using this manipulation. So like spell checking, for example, like spell checking, you cannot do it, that cannot do this using this direct manipulation. Okay, another example is that when you want to delete something, right? When you want to delete a file, you just click the file and you drag it into the recycle bin. So that gives you satisfaction that you already deleted the file, you put it in the recycle bin. So that is also an example of manipulating. Okay. So next interaction types is exploring. Okay, so this involves users moving through virtual or physical environment. So this similar to how people browse information with existing media like multimedia or web. So this can also be when you do gaming. When you do gaming, so you can also use like this app. This one I think it's map. You can use this to explore information using your system. So depending on the type of app or system that you're using. So this is also an example of exploring where uses VR to play the game. Okay, like it's this person will feel like he is in the game, but of course virtually. Okay, so among all the types of interaction that we have discussed, so which is the best interaction type? So it depends to what do you use your computer for. So direct manipulation is it's good for doing types of tasks like designing, drawing, flying, driving, or sizing windows on your system, while instructing is good for repetitive tasks with like example like spell checking and also file management. And then having a conversation is good for children because they don't know how to use the features on the system. So also for those with computer phobic and disabled users also uh, is a good best interaction type for this one, conversation, disabled users, and also specialized applications. Okay, so for this type of interactions, it can also be hybrid, which different ways of carrying out the same action. It's supported by the interface, but can take longer to learn. Okay, so it can be hybrid as well. So these are examples of types of um, best interaction, the interaction types that we have discussed previously. So depending on what do you use your system for. So now let's look at interface types. Okay, interface types. So we have interface types here. We will look at command line interface, and then direct manipulation. We will look at menu and fill-in form. So you might see some of familiar slide or some familiar concept that we have learned previously. So the first one is command line interface. So this is original or traditional style human computer interface. So you use this to give instruction to the computer. Okay. So user will type the command by using artificial language with its own semantics according to what kind of system they are using. So here, this is an example of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is a type of Linux operating system. So you can use command that Linux understand. So some usually for CLI, depending on what type of operating system that we're using, then you can proceed to use this in your system according to your operating system. For Mac OS is different, for Windows is different, and for Linux is different. Okay, so this is example of a Linux. So ls, if I'm not mistaken, this one is to list the folders on inside your system, and then you change directory to desktop, and it goes to the desktop directory. Yeah. So there are advantages and disadvantages of this CLI. So the advantages will be it's powerful, it's fast and efficient because as long as you give a correct command, the system will provide you with will process the command for you. So a few keystroke can express complex command. Okay, something like this. So this is a Linux command. So here with this one statement, one row of statement, what it actually does is that all this was done at the back. Okay, so similar thing when you do your database practical, right? So it's the same thing. So like you give like statements, you run the query, and the system the will run the query for you. Okay, so for example, like here, PS actually what it does is it print the status of all processes of all users that's currently running on the system, and then what happens next is that it pipe the output to a sort program. So here this one is referring to the pipe pipelining process. The output of this status is sent to this sort program, and it redirects the sorted list from the screen to a file. Okay, so it creates a file of called as ps.txt, and then everything, all these are done at the background. Yeah, so it is not like it's not shown to you, but when after you like press enter for this particular command, it will do all these things at the back and behind or at the background of your system. Then Ecodan is telling you that um, the or the command is end here. Okay, so this type of command also will alert the user when the task has finished. So that's also advantages of a CLI. So it's flexible and user control. So means you can choose what to type on the CLI, and this one is fast for experts. Okay, those that is familiar with the commands. But the disadvantages of this CLI is that it's difficult to remember, to learn and remember, and enhancement are invisible, like nearly no enhancement, and it needed typing skill to type the commands, and this type of interface is the hardest for the novice users. Okay, like for if you I believe during our week one of database practical, everyone feel like oh susahnya ni practical, right? But as time goes by, I think you already know how to log into your database and how to create tables and so on. Okay, so this type of interface, the command line interface can be hard for beginner or novice users. And then next we have the interface types of direct manipulation. So here is where user can directly manipulate objects at the interface using a pointing device like a mouse, a stylus, or a fingers. So designed to replace this is used to replace the need to enter command via keyboard. So means just use your finger to manipulate the system. Like example in the first picture here, you can like drag and drop your pictures, and then you can also use stylus to draw picture on the virtual whiteboard, and also you can use your finger to move um, articles around on your screen. Okay, so the advantages of advantages of this direct manipulation, advantages and the disadvantages. So the advantages is that user can immediately see if their action is furthering their goal. For example, like you want to delete file, right? You just drag and drag to the recycle bin example. So if the goal is not being fulfilled, they can simply change the direction of the activity, right? So visibility, it also provides visibility of the system state, which action are easily reversible. So automatically the user will have less anxiety. Okay, so that's for the advantages of uh, DM, direct manipulation. So the disadvantages of these interface types is that not all action can be done directly. Okay, like what we discussed earlier on. So it may require graphic display and pointing devices like mouse, stylus, or even the tableau. So how about visual impaired users? How do they use this many direct manipulation interface type for them to be able to use the system? Okay, so this one you do your own research on how this visual impaired user can use this type of user interface type. Okay, direct manipulation. So it for this DM as well, it is slow in handling repetitive tasks compared to CLI. That for CLI, you can just run a command and it does everything for you. But for direct manipulation, you need to do it like repetitive. Like you want to delete something from different folder, right? So you need to delete one by one. Okay, but if you're using command line interface, you can do that in one statement in one query. So next we look at the next interface type. We have the menu. Okay. So this menu it shows you the list of options in the system from which user will be able to select for on what they desire to do on the system. So the advantages of this is that the options are visible, means the user know what they can do on the system. So you don't have to use any memory to to use the system. You just you just look at the options and you pick which one you want to use, right? So easier to use. The system will be easier to use if you have this menu. And it also rely on recognition, so names should be meaningful. So means that the how you name your options in your menu, or we also um, give like flexibility to the user when they use your system. And another advantages is that enhancement are visible. So you can add new function into the system and they will appear on the screen. So depending on the type of your update, you can do this enhancement on your menu or your option. Example, here we have the ATM machine menu. Okay, like this one. We have to look at this in the previous lecture, right? And also this type of menu. Okay, so the disadvantage of this um, this menu is that the this menu usually force a user through set sequence of steps. So let's say you want to open Windows Media Player. This one I believe from previous version of Windows. I think this one's Windows 95, if I'm not mistaken. Visual Studio Analysis Experience. Okay, so last time when the previous version of Windows is that if you want to open your Windows Media Player, you need to go to Program, go to Accessories. So if you are not comfortable or if you are not used to use, if you are not used using, not used to use mouse, this will be very hard for you to do. Like you need to hover the programs, click, and then go to accessories, and then slowly go to entertainment. So like if you like um, move or move the mouse away from this menu, it will disappear, and then you need to start back from programs, click on it, and so on. Okay, of course you can do shortcut, but previously during this time I don't think I can do shortcut. Okay. I think can do this one kan. But of course, maybe this one is not the not the not the software that you always access. So that's why you will have this sequence to go and open your Windows Media Player. Okay, this is just an example. So you can use this. You can try to uh, apply your knowledge from this disadvantage of using menu for your own system for your assignment. Yeah, so we have many types of menus. You can have a menu bar at top of screen. Okay, so this is the normal way of us presenting the menu bar. You can also have a drop down box for your menu. You can use the mouse to click, or you can use mouse over. And then you have a contextual menu. Okay, so contextual menu is the menu that appears where you are. So this one is where you usually use right click. Okay, when you do right click, contextual menu will appear. So the example of contextual menu will be pop-up menus, which show available actions for selected object. So you right click and then you will see the available action that is uh, available for the object that you select. So this one is usually right click. And then you have pie menus, which arrange in a circle. Okay, something like this one, right? Pie menu. And then the pie menus is easier to select item and quicker. Okay, but of course depending on the user as well. So an example of contextual menu. So this is the view when you right click on desktop, or and then you have the drive when you right click on the drive on your computer. So it has different options for each one. This is when you right click on folder. This is when you right click on my computer. So the same thing that you can see here is search. Okay, search. All have search. Some got new, rename also have rename. Yeah, so this is an example of contextual menu. So now let's look at menu design guidelines. Okay, so this is just a guidelines. It does not necessarily apply to your system. Yeah. So if there is an inactive menu items on your options or on your menu, you can consider doing it out. Okay, way out. So let's say the current work that you're doing on this app or on this software. I think this one is Photoshop or Illustrator. So because if this is not available for your current task on the software, you can gray it out. Okay, so this is where this is done when you do the menu design. So you use familiar terminology, but ensure that items are distinct from one another. Okay, so let's say you. So here are the choice of ordering menu items. It can be alphabetical, okay, from A, B, C, D, and Z. The choices are simply listed in alphabetic order. And then you can also do your menu items in category. Okay, do it categorical, which choices or options are grouped according to semantic property. Okay, this one we already discussed. I think we discussed this previously. There will be an example after this shown to you. And then conventional, okay, conventional choice, a conventional way of ordering the menu items. So choices are neither in alphabetical order or not in the categorical order as well. But it can have a temporal order such as months of the year. Maybe you do it as month of the year, days of the week, numbers, and maybe depending on sizes of your files. Okay, and then we usually want to do it by looking at the frequency of use, whereby the options or the choices you list it in order of expected frequency of use. Like uh, maybe you list your options according to frequency of use. Okay, so depending on your goals when you create your assignment, if you have these menu items, look at these guidelines on how you want to design your menu items. Okay, so for this one, we have another law called Zeiss Steering Law. So this is an extension of the Fitts law tunnel, the Fitts law. So this is the formula which T is referring to the average time to navigate through path, where AB is referring to the constants depending on context. C here is the path parameterized by S, and W is the width of the path at S. I think this one is DS. This one is supposed to be DS. Okay, so the conclusion of this law is that a narrow and long path increases selection time. Okay, so if you have it's similar to the Fitts law, okay, but it's enhanced. Okay, so a narrow and a long path will increase selection time. Okay, so if the the distance is long, okay, if distance is long and the target is here, and the width is very small, the selection can be difficult and slow. Okay, but a wider width and a short path can reduce selection time. So when you when you increase the width size, you can go to the selection to the target more easy and fast. Okay, so example like here, we have these narrow menu items and wider menu items. So if it's narrow, right, um, depending on the user actually, but of course, referring to the law, just now we see you will be your access will be more faster and easier if it has wider menu items rather than narrow menu items. Okay, so depending on your experience, but for me, yeah, I would prefer to have these wider menu items. Okay, so these are example of narrow menu items, which are very small space for you to see the options. Yeah, it's more wide. The menus item are more wider. Okay, so we take 5 before we continue to the next part. Can we do that?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we continue, yeah?
Okay.
Okay, so let's now look at the next the next interface type. We have the fill-in form. Okay, so screen fill-in form is usually something like this, right? So we have like a paper form, so it contains number of fields which user is expected to type in data or insert data. So each file field usually will have a label, okay, and also known as caption. And this fill-in form is useful for data entry application, right? So this is an example of a fill-in form. So the advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages of the fill-up form is that it is efficient use of screen real estate. Like it can mean ask many questions on one screen, and it provide context because there are many fields on a single screen, and enhancement can be done for for the form. But the disadvantages will be the user need to have typing skills, and there will be more user errors, and how do we improve from this? Okay, so fill up form you can have user can give you error, and users are assumed to have knowledge of special keys like tab, the cursor key, enter or backspace. So these are the guidelines for this type of interface. For fill-in form, the guidelines are you need to look at the organization and layout, the caption and the field design, the input formats, error handling, and also the completion signal to support user control. So let's look at the first one. Okay, look at the first one. We have the organization and layout. So we can organize the form to support tasks. So let's say if the field form is an online version of a paper form, so the layout should be similar. Okay, such as like example like credit card application. If you have the first field is to fill up name, and then date of birth and so on the paper. So on online version it should be similar. All right, and you need to utilize spaces to create symmetry and balance. Like here you have empty space, right? Empty space, like it's not that for interface design, we want to eliminate empty space as much as possible. And then for separating logical groups by using spaces, lines, or colors, or other visual cues. So this one we already discussed previously in the previous lecture. We want to reduce the gap between the label and also the field. Okay, so if you like reduce the gap, it will be easier for your user to read the label and give the required input, right? Like like this one, like you don't know this is for what, like, right? You will take time to go and read what is this field for. Okay, so this one is more easier to see. And then the next one is caption and field design. So you have a label position. So it was um, it was evident that placing a label above, you put the label above an input field works better in most cases because users are forced to look separately at the label and the input field. Like if you are a user, right? So if it's like at the side of the input field, you will look at this, like this, like this, like this. So your eyes is like tired, right? You want to see this field is for what? Okay, it's for this. Okay, next, and then go on. So this is how you look at the screen, right? If it's side to side. So let's say if you put the label above the input field, so you just have to look up and go down. So much easier for you. much easier for the user to see and give input to the field input, right? So you can have more reading on this via this website here. Okay, so maybe if, like for your system as well, you can also apply this label position where you can place the label above your input field if you have any. So you can apply this guideline as well. And then provide distinctive section headings in complex form. Okay, so let's say you have a complex form, something like this, right? Something like it's like a very, very like too many things like very. It's not clear enough to see. So if you section the headings, section the form, it will be much easier for you, for the student to see and fill up the required or the necessary information. So you have here the student registration. Okay, so the student's details, and you separate another section heading, the courses, and the input fields. Okay, so this is a poor considered as a poor interface design and form design, sorry, and this is an improved form design which you provide distinctive section headings for the things, the information that you need from the user. And then you indicate which fields are optional or indicate which fields are mandatory, right? So usually optional, maybe it's not optional for the system to work, but mandatory are those fields that the user need to fill in, because usually the information that you put in as mandatory to fill in are those that you will use in the system, like to characterize the user that is using your system. And then you need to avoid heavy use of all uppercase letter. So the conventional upper and lowercase letters can be read by about 13% faster than text in all uppercase. Okay, so all if you use all uppercase only if you want to highlight something. Okay, so we use uppercase usually on interface just to highlight important notes or important information on your system. And then for display of fields, okay, display of fields, this one we have discussed previously. So numeric fields, you can justify, or maybe you can just do write justified on display depending on your data that you want to um, view to the user, and numeric fields with decimal points. So how do you provide the information to the user? Okay, so this one we already discussed previously. Okay, so this is an example of a poor arrangement of display of fields. So this one is improved. So this one is right justified. And then you have the numeric fields. Okay, this one is poor. This one is improved look of it, which you put the decimal in one so that it will be easy for you to read the numbers. And another one is like long numbers. So in order for the user easy to read, you use something like this. You separate the numbers into a few sections, right? And then about error handling. Okay, error handling. So error messages will be popped out when there is unacceptable values and indicate the errors. It can be pop up or it can be something like this, like giving the user like giving the user indicate to the user that there are errors on this form. Okay, so this one is when there is no input. You sign up but there's no input. Okay, so you cannot sign up if the fields are not filled up yet. Okay, so you need to also include error handling so that the user know what to do when they when they like when they uh, do some error on the system, like they do something that the system does not accept. So you need to have this error handling, which you tell the user what you need to do. Like for example, this one, you need to give your name. Okay, you need to give your name. So you give your name and then you press sign up again. This will pop up again the error. So means that this indicate that you need to provide all information that's needed on the sign up page, sign up form page. Okay, and then feedback. Okay, feedback to the user. So you will need to give a completion signal to support user control. So it should be clear to the users what they must do when they finish filling up the form. So usually, you give the thank you message, and then you can also give an option to subscribe to the newsletter of your system. Yeah, so you can like do something like this. Means you give feedback to the user so that the user feels satisfied that, oh, okay, I already registered, because I get this thank you message from the system. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. So I hope you learn new things today. Thank you so much for your time. So you still have like 45 minutes. So I want to make an announcement here. Okay. So any question for the lecture so far? Okay.
No.
So far no.
Okay. No. So I want to make an announcement. So same with BSES 3183, this course will also be taken over by other lecturer. Okay. But
Oh, I was about to ask about that.
yeah, but not in week 8, week 9 for this course.
Oh.
Same lecturer or
Different,
different?
different lecturer. The
Okay.
lecturer, ha? Local. Ito ba mo to?
Yeah.
Yeah, local, don't worry. Week week 9, about face to face, I'm not sure about that, or Kelvin. Maybe you need to ask the Dr. Chris about that. I'm not sure about that week 9. About face to face. No information yet, right? For that one, like when you, but if according to the letter from most parents, like macam the whole semester saja request for online, but I'm not sure how it is. For face to face, I don't have any answer. Okay, but for this course, BIT 2203, it will be taken over by other part-time lecturer starting week 9. Okay, so next week I will still be with you, or with you. I will still conduct the classes as usual with you next week. Um, and the midterm test also I will conduct as well. Okay, so other subjects already do a midterm test. Your other subjects,
No.
No.
no news, no midterm test ka your subjects, your other subjects.
I think the digital multimedia only test.
Test, test.
Yeah.
Itulah tuh kan midterm test, no?
I think that's maybe that's the same lah.
Uh, oh, quiz. I see. Maybe because different subject, different assessment, am I right? So for this course, we will do it during our lecture session. Okay, so we don't have like to find time to, because the question is not the same with other branches. We have our own question. So I'll just give you a glimpse of how it will look like. Okay. So you can refer to the past year question as well for this course. It's similar to that. You will be given a scenario, and then you discuss the question. Okay, something like the tutorial as well. But this one, of course, because it's test, right? You need to like write a short essay for it. Okay, so typically you will need to discuss on the analysis of user, analysis of environment, analysis of task, right? and then you will also give some insight on how you can improve user interface. Okay, so typically um, apa tuh focusing on interface design, yeah, user interface design, the UI, the UI design. Okay, so I would say it will cover from chapter 1 until chapter 6, but because this is a case study, it's not case study, actually, it's like a scenario, scenario or case study. It's a scenario where you're given a situation, and then you discuss about the analysis of user, analysis of environment, analysis of task, and you give also discussion on solution. Okay. The marks, the question is only one. Okay, so on one scenario, and then the marks would be 30 marks. Okay, so this midterm test will carry 30 marks of your coursework marks. Got it?
How long the midterm?
2 hours, including submission. Masa kita punya lecture. So it should be, yeah, 2 hours, but including submission. I would say it's 1 hour 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is for your submission. Okay, so the way I will do it is I will create another Google Classroom for this. Kejap fikir dulu. You all are familiar with online assessment already, right? Like you provide answer in Google Docs, and then you run the originality report, and then you attach submission of a Google Docs, your PDF, and your originality report in PDF format.
Yeah.
Familiar kan? So I will, for the purpose of this midterm test, I will create another Google Classroom after this. By this week, I create the Google Classroom and invite 3 of you to join the Google Classroom for MTT for this course. And then, do you want to do the dry run? You all want to try it, like mocha?
Can also.
I'll try to schedule on that, but no time already to do the dry run. Let me think. I try to list out what you need to do first, and I think I can show you that I can just show you maybe how I try to give you the instruction first and see if I can spare time to do the dry run with you. Okay, but I think all of you okay already. It's like submitting your tutorial, but this one you need to submit another PDF file of your answer and your originality report in PDF format. I will post announcement in the Google Classroom later, the new Google Classroom for midterm test. What else? Do you have any question for midterm test? All answer will be in Google Doc. You answer in Google Docs because you need to run the originality report.
And then export in PDF.
Yes, save as PDF. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that means three files you need to submit. First is the Google Docs document. Second is the PDF of your answer, PDF of your Google Docs. Third is the originality report in PDF format. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Clear? Your new lecturer will take over in week 9. So I will do the marking for your midterm test. I think it's only fair that I do the marking because I am the one who conduct it. I will also create a Google Meet for create Google. We will use the lecture Google Meet, the lecture Meet link for the test, and then you will need to on your webcam also for your test. Okay, same thing or similar with what you do for your online assessment. Okay, can we do that? Can you on webcam?
Oh, can.
Can.
During test saja lah. During the test. Okay, so during submission you can off already lah. Anything else I forgot? So I create Google Classroom for MTT BIT 2203, and I invite all of you. You all join, and then every all the questions and the submission you will do in that particular Google Classroom. So after the MTT habis, I will archive the Google Classroom. Okay. So any more question before I let you do your own thing?
Mm, so far, no.
So
Okay.
far, no.
Okay, so we still have like 20 minutes. Actually, I have a briefing at 4. I will let you do your own thing now. Please go and do your practical. So yang like macam Kelvin and Vero, right? I think you are left behind already. So you need to do progress for your assignment, yeah? Okay, so Noel can continue on doing the your current progress for your assignment.
Okay.
Okay, so later 4:20 lah you left the session, alright? Can you do that?
Okay.
Okay.
So I will be in another meeting. You left saja later. Okay, okay,
Okay, Miss.
Okay, Miss.
okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Alright.